Has to be on the ground. Elevated, like we do.
Because everything, well, I know what I'm saying. It's a record.
Yeah.
So, just something,
even though you're supposed to lie.
I do, sometimes. But then when I go ask a question, I'm there for like 30 minutes.
Now I want to answer it quickly. Keep me out.
and what they would do, the ones from 6 months ago.
And I was wondering why I'm supposed to be walking around.
They weren't gonna do the digital. That was 10 years ago.
Have you trial the recording? I've got two videos. I'm wondering if it will just pop up. As long as you got it right, tape it, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
And I have my phone here too.
Okay.
When are we having our meeting with us? The 11th.
I want all her trainings done on our calendar because I just assumed that was the fast track trainers and whoever's schools are not. Usually that says it on the stuff that we got to discuss.
And they working on the equipment, on the buildings.
She let me think.
We get excited because and what they do is they
You got out of it, right?
but we have a lot of really good
Right.
Okay, well, I guess we can get the party rolling for the people who showed up on time. Thank you. My name is Dr. Darrell Fordson. I was the medical director here when you guys first met me here at Wagon Trail, but I'm now in Henderson because we made some configuration changes. So I'm here because we have a good space here for you guys to relax and enjoy the food. So if you haven't gotten anything, please help yourself. Get up at any time and refresh your refreshments. But I want to thank you for coming out. I've been in the Valley for about 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in February. And so I'm learning more about not only the rich culture of Las Vegas, but also the diverse employers here. Everybody thinks about the Strip and all those activities, and people don't really know about a lot of the light industry that we have here. And of course the service industry, not only on the Strip, but for the other citizens, and servicing the manufacturers that are here, and providing, personal services, whether it's lawn care or tree care like you guys do, the orthopedic surgery, and all these other things that people are doing with their businesses. So I appreciate you coming out, taking time out of your busy days to participate in this presentation. I want to dedicate this presentation to want to dedicate this presentation to 4 men that I went to college with. 3 of them I knew very well. One of them was more or less a friend of some friends of mine, but I had an acquaintance with him. The first one is Bertram Buddy Sears Jr. This is a young man who died in his late 50s, probably about 58 years old, dropped dead in front of his wife at a restaurant. And he was a Morehouse graduate, did well at Morehouse, went to Harvard, got his MBA there, and left children when he passed away at the not so ripe old age of 58 years old. The gentleman to his right was a fraternity brother of mine, Dr. Kevin G. McCowan, surgeon in the Atlanta area, who actually had a heart attack while here in Las Vegas a few years ago, and this summer he didn't show up for work, and he was found dead of an apparent heart attack in his home. And that happened in June. Shortly after that, my dear friend, Dr. Morris Reese, who's a physician like myself, knew him from the first day of school. When we started Morehouse together, we stayed in the same dorm, same floor. And he was riding his bike. He'd had COVID, he was recovering, rode his bike, and collapsed in the park from sudden death syndrome. And finally, another fraternity brother, both of us pledged together, Dr. McCowan. This is Dr. Michael E. Collins, who was a pharmacist and a colonel in the United States Army. Came home, started some salmon for he and his wife. His wife came home to finish up the dinner. He went downstairs to exercise. She went down to check on him, and he was lying flat on the floor with a lamp on top of him. And he must have known something was going on because he paid many of the bills in advance, had everything set up, but prior to his passing. And he succumbed. None of these men were, the oldest one I think was 62 years old. I believe Mr. Sears was about 58 years old. And so this has all happened in the space of about a little less than 2 years. The 3 gentlemen here, this has happened in the space of about 5 months. So I thought that it was important that we make our employers aware of the fact that this is happening. And of course, this didn't happen on the job for them, but we're going to talk about how often sudden cardiac death does happen on the job. So first of all, what is sudden cardiac death? Sudden cardiac death, sudden cardiac arrest occurs when ventricular fibrillation, or kind of a quivering of the heart rather than a beating of the heart, takes place, or when the heart stops beating altogether. Without medical attention, the victim collapses, he loses consciousness, he becomes unresponsive, and he or she dies. Many victims have no prior history of heart disease and are stricken without warning. There are about 220,000 victims of sudden cardiac arrest per year, and about 10,000 of these people are at work when they pass away. When you're waiting for the arrival of emergency system personnel, if you're waiting, don't do anything, about 5 to 7% of these people will die. But if you get them to a defibrillator in a timely fashion within 5 to 7 minutes, then you increase that rate of survival to about 60%. And that's one of the key points that I want to take home to you guys about the importance of having a defibrillator at your workplace or in the work site. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. Sudden cardiac death is the leading cause of natural death in the United States. It causes half of all heart disease deaths. And what you have to understand, as I mentioned with these gentlemen who are friends of mine, what people are dying from at home, they're also dying from at work in large numbers. Every year, more than 356,000 people in the United States have a cardiac arrest outside of the hospital. So it's not only about your employees, but if you're at a work site and somebody else passes by and they collapse, then you might be able to save them. Only 10% of these people survive even with paramedic treatment. Probably because the paramedics don't get there in time, because there's not, people aren't either trained in CPR or they don't have the resources to do what they need to do to defibrillate the patient. Sudden cardiac death affects men twice as often as it does women. It's rare in children, affecting only 1 to 2 per 100,000 children each year. Okay, we're going to talk about the AED, which is the automatic external defibrillator. Why would you want to have this piece of equipment on the job? Why would you want to have it in the truck, at the work site, all those situations? Well, the fact is, workers may suffer sudden cardiac arrest on the job. On-site AEDs save precious treatment time, improve survival rates, as I said, and a heart rhythm in ventricular fibrillation, the only way to bring it back may be by electrical shock. This piece of equipment is compact, it's light, it's portable, and for a company, it's not dirt cheap, but it's easy, it's safe, it's easy to use, and it's a good investment for your company. Why do people have sudden cardiac death? Well, they may have scarring of their heart tissue, fibrosis. They may have a thickened muscle in the heart that causes problems with conduction of the impulses in the heart, or how the heart moves. They may be on heart medications which may stop abnormal rhythms, but may also simultaneously in certain populations of patients promote abnormal rhythms. They can have electrical abnormalities. These are intrinsical shorts, like short wiring in the heart that causes them to have abnormal heart beats that end up being fatal, potentially fatal. Blood vessel abnormalities. They may be missing a blood vessel. The blood vessel may not go to the right place in the right way and leave them susceptible to having cardiac events. Recreational drug use. Cocaine will definitely bring people into ventricular fibrillation and cause heart abnormalities. Crystal meth as a stimulant can do that. And of course, if people stop breathing, they have to be resuscitated from opiates or things that are extremely sedating. And finally, there's a very rare condition called commotio cordis, which occurs as a result to the blow of the left side of the heart at a specific time, in a specific time in the cycle of the heart. Some of you may have heard about kids getting hit in the chest with a ball. That's what often happens. So let's talk about these 5 individuals here. Sudden causes of cardiac death. So the first one we talk about scarring of the heart tissue. My fraternity brother, who had the heart condition, when he passed out in his basement, there was some scarring of tissue in his heart, and that might have had something to do with why he succumbed the way he did. Heart defect. Who knows who this young man is at the top here, top left? What's his name? LeBron James Jr. So he had a heart defect. It caused him to suddenly collapse at the gym at USC when he was in school. You may remember that happened about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Might have been 2 years ago. About 1 year. So if he had passed out at home, I doubt very seriously, as wealthy as they are, I doubt very seriously that they have a defibrillator there. If he had passed out at home, he probably would not be here. In a way, he was on the job, especially in light of the money that's being paid students now. He was at the gym at USC. They had a defibrillator. That's a large reason why he's still with us. Thickened heart muscle. We talked about that being a cause of sudden death. Heart medications, abnormal heart medications, electrical abnormalities. So does anybody recognize this beautiful woman here? I don't expect that's a trick question. I don't expect you to recognize it because that's my mom. It's my mother. I was home home between my junior and senior, between my sophomore and junior year. She got the flu that preceding Christmas. Influenza, like COVID, can be toxic to the heart muscle. Heart muscle was damaged. Her ejection fraction, the capacity for the heart to pump, decreased. She had to go on disability at 47 years old. Mid-July, I was gonna go and see a friend of mine. I went up into another room to read a book. When I came back, she was barely breathing. And it turned out that the medication that she was on for her heart in 1982, they took off the market in 1991 when I was a resident, because it actually caused the abnormalities that caused her to succumb. She also had an injury to her heart. Her heart was thickened because of, and weakened because of the virus. Finally, she also had electrical abnormalities. She was feeling faint. She was having some of these funny rhythms to begin with. That's why they put her on the medication. So she had three things coming at her, and in the end, she passed away at 47 years old. So I've been dealing, and I've had other family members who have succumbed this way. There's some genetic predisposition sometimes with this also. So you can understand why this whole issue is near and dear to my heart. This gentleman, some of the guys might know who he is in the red shirt. Pistol Pete Maravich. So Pistol Pete was retired. He was playing a pickup game. I forget what town he was in. No, Los Angeles. He was playing a pickup game at a church. He was in a church group where they started playing basketball. Went to a pickup game, was shooting around and collapsed. Turned out he had a missing blood vessel in his heart. So he was 42, I believe, when he passed away. Very young, very young man. Does anybody know who this young man is? Len Bias. Drafted in 1984 by the Celtics, first round draft pick, number 1. And decided he was going to celebrate by using some cocaine. And cocaine is a stimulant, caused him to go into ventricular fibrillation. They said they found about 5 grams of cocaine in his stomach, so I don't know whether he ingested it. That's about 3 packs of sugar worth of cocaine. That's a lot of cocaine. And he did not survive. So they played a day of basketball. Ironically, his brother passed away Sunday, unfortunately.
Did you say the same way?
The same way, cocaine. Same way. So the last person the guys might be familiar with, this is what DeMar Hamlin plays for the Buffalo Bills. And on January 2nd, about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, he was playing in a game and attacked. It's important that you kind of see this.
I saw your text just like before 12.
You can't get it to play for some reason right now. He was struck in the chest by that gentleman number 85. He got up briefly and immediately passed out.
Which one is it?
Number 3. I really wanted you guys to see this because so that you can recognize what this looks like. So that when you see something like this, you know what you're dealing with. Just it's up.
That's, not what any of us want to see.
So, you know, people say, oh, I feel dizzy, whatever. This is like total lights out. Everything just shuts down.
So we'll take
So
another
when
break.
you see something like that, you need to be thinking about this may well be a cardiac event.
Defensive backs than any team in football, 95% of the time. You're essentially a weak side linebacker in the run game as well. Here's Higgins wide open.
So for a perspective on what we're talking about, a worker died every 96 minutes from a work-related injury in 2022. This is not just heart, but this is taking on cover. So every hour and a half, somebody's dying from. Unintentional overdoses increased 13.1% to a series high fatalities of 525 in 2022. These are the top 10 causes of workplace death. Transportation incidents, car accidents, truck accidents, whatever. People falling from high places, people being struck by fallen objects or equipment. Skipping to 5, you can get caught in between crush injuries, violence, people getting, police officers getting shot or people getting beaten up on the bus or whatever, killed while working, exposure to harmful substances, toxic substances, fires, explosions. But the ones that I put in red are situations where you could potentially use a defibrillator in all of these situations, but you will see the need for that in particular in situations obviously where people have been electrocuted, where people are overheated, seizing, or people unintentionally overdose on the job. So, you're doing lawn, you're doing trees, people are out here in the heat. If you're working in electrical things where people come across a power line or something like that, or an underground line, get electrocuted by accident. And of course, people who are using drugs on the job. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. An estimated 46 million Americans aged 18 or older experienced a substance abuse disorder. So we're talking about a lot of people. Nearly 2/3 of these people were employed. So these aren't street bums. These are people that you work with every day. People family members who have had issues with substance abuse. 1 of every 22 deaths in the USA among persons ages 15 to 74, more or less working age, was attributable to unintentional overdose involving opioids. You're talking about 110,000 people dying in 2022. The rates have gone down a little bit this year, thankfully, but it's still a lot of people who are dying.
What was the number? 1 in what?
1 in every 22. 1 in every 22. So drug overdose deaths involving synthetic opioids, cocaine, psychostimulants continue to rise. Well, they didn't this year, thank you. So I wanted to kind of bridge off of cardiac issues and just bring this up because it's kind of related. You can go online at Amazon and get some Narcan, get 2 doses for $50 with the taxes or whatever, and have that in the nurse's office, in the nurse's station, you know, somewhere in the plant, somewhere where your staff can get to it, spray it up somebody's nose and save a life and keep them from overdosing. I doubt seriously whether there's someone in this room that hasn't been affected by opioid overdose, an opioid death. So this is a very, very inexpensive way to protect your workers who may have issues with drugs on the job or drugs, period. So let's getting back to the cardiac situation. What can we do about this situation? What can we do about people dying on the job or dying, period, from these cardiac deaths? Well, we can screen for cardiac disease. We can incentivize and reward good health habits and activities, like eating right and exercising. We can get our staffs trained in CPR, and we can get a cardiac defibrillator on the job. Let's talk about cardiac screening. I'm sure all of you at one time have had some of these tests, an EKG, an echocardiogram, cardiac stress test, and CT scan of the coronary arteries, probably not so much, but the EKG is definitely. Some of you have needed that to get the jobs that you have. So I wanted to talk about the one that you'd be the least familiar with, which is the CT angiogram of the coronary arteries. Now, many of you have had a CT, a computerized tomography scan, where you show whether or not somebody has stones in the gallbladder, or whether their bowels are obstructed, or a scan of their head if they've been hit in the head, if they had a stroke, etc. We also can now do these scans on the heart and show the calcium blockage if there is any there in the heart vessels. This is also known as a coronary artery calcium score test, which gives you a calcium score. The calcium scan is a special computerized tomography scan of the heart. It looks for calcium deposits. The results can help determine the risk of heart attack or stroke. And the results of the scan may be used to plan or change treatment. So we use this test for people who have a strong family history of early coronary artery disease, and we also do it for people who have whose risk for heart disease is intermediate. That is, you don't do that on a 20-year-old kid because it's highly unlikely that they have heart disease, and if the test was positive, it might be falsely positive. And you also don't do it on somebody who's already had 2 heart attacks, because the test is going to be usually going to be positive and tell you what you already know, or if it isn't, even if it's negative, you probably would do well not to believe it. So for otherwise healthy individuals who have strong family histories, like I do, of heart disease in general, coronary heart disease in particular, this is a good test that I encourage you guys to get, and encourage your employers to get. I'm getting mine done next month. Plan treatment if you have a low to moderate risk of heart disease, and if your heart disease risk isn't clear. So this helps the doctor know whether or not they need to give you statins or not, or they need to start on aspirin or not, and to see how aggressive your treatment for potential heart disease might need to be. So what can employers do? Well, if you can get your employees involved in exercise programs. Some of you, if you have a big enough facility, you might want to have a gym inside the plant or whatever. For others, you might want to incentivize or help pay for a membership to a gym like EOS or LVAC. You can bring in people to speak on health education, just like I'm talking to you guys about this. This is something that I think your employees would also benefit from. And those are things that we can do. We can do regular health screenings, screening for blood pressure, screening for high elevated blood sugar, cholesterol levels. That goes a long way in getting people informed about their level of health. A lot of people have diabetes and don't even know that they have it. You want to promote a healthy work environment. You don't want to have nothing but junk food and sugary drinks available. People need to be able to access water. They need to be able to access juice in reasonable amounts. Juice can have a lot of sugar too, but seltzer water, other things that people can drink or use. Kombucha, that's great for the stomach. These are the types of things you want to have in the cafeteria and promote smoke-free workplaces. You want to do everything you can to educate your people about reducing stress, about the importance of reducing stress, about the importance of getting their sleep. Sleep is a very, very important part of a healthy life. Americans kind of take pride in, I don't need this much sleep, or I don't get this much sleep because I'm a workaholic or whatever. And we're finding out that that's not, that may sound macho, it may sound great, it might be great for the bottom line, but it's not great for people's health. I was talking to a colleague of mine who actually was head of the residency program at Cook County Hospital in Chicago. And I was telling him about at the time when I was working nights, and he said that at Cook County, you cannot work in the emergency room at night. You can't work the night shifts after 55 because the health outcomes are so bad. So after you're 55 years old, they don't let you work these late shifts and miss sleep. You can do policy and environmental changes that give breaks for physical activity. You can ergonomic workstations that help people work efficiently and lead to fewer injuries, and also reduce exposure to harmful substances. So this slide is to kind of emphasize that you need to go to the next level a lot of times to detect some of these illnesses. This particular, I don't know what his first name was, but this particular pilot was 59 years old. He had undergone a routine health check, but he probably didn't undergo a close enough assessment of his heart or maybe of his blood to find out what was going on. This happened, by the way, about 5 to 6 weeks ago, so very recent. So they were going from Seattle to Istanbul. They had to land in New York and take his dead body off of the plane. He was one of the pilots. There was obviously another pilot there to fly the plane. So that's a work-related issue. And by the way, the Mar Hamlin, he was on the job. That was a work-related situation. That was workers' comp issue. How many of you guys know CPR? They're trained in CPR. Okay, very good, very good. So that's an important skill to have. And it's something that you don't have to be in health to know. You need to know. I counted it up, I've been in about 4 situations outside of the hospital, outside of my being a doctor. And I would say 3.5, because one of them I was at the job at an urgent care facility, and the patient was coming in, but the patient collapsed in the parking lot. So technically they weren't at the job. We had to come out and resuscitate the patient, and they came back. So there's a good chance that you're going to encounter something like this. Someone who's choking on some food, use the Heimlich maneuver, someone who collapses at church, someone who collapses in the heat, whatever may happen. And the benefits of CPR is obviously going to save a life. You identify and respond to the signs of cardiac arrest. You learn how to use the AED, and you also can help someone who's choking, assist with an accident, help in natural disasters, and learn basic anatomy. So also you get to learn some stress management and crisis management skills that you can transfer into your life. Now, the cardiac defibrillators. What's a cardiac defibrillator? So this is a little dynamo that basically resets the heart. The heart pumps based on ions flowing. Sodium going, generally speaking, you have sodium that is on the inside of the, on the outside of the cells, and potassium is on the inside. So, you know, if you look at your labs, your sodium is usually around 140 milliequivalents, so there's a lot of sodium in the vessels. There's only about 4 in the vessels for potassium. So these channels exchange the ions, and in the course of these ions being exchanged, this is how you generate the energy and generate the electrical activity. But when the heart stops, everything just kind of gets to be mushy and confused. So the way you get it back is when you hit someone with this energy, everything goes back to reset. Sodium goes over here, potassium goes over there, and it starts all over again. So that's on a very elemental level. That's what the defibrillator does. It provides electrical shock to your heart to allow it to get out of potentially fatal abnormal rhythm or arrhythmia and back to a normal rhythm. Both arrhythmias, both ventricular tachycardia, where the heart's beating real fast, 150 to 200 beats per minute, or when it's beating super fast above 200, it can break it out of that. Now, the significance of that, you would think that would be good. The harder the faster your heart pumps, the more blood you're pumping, and up to a certain level, that's true. But keep in mind that the heart has to pump, and then it has to relax to get the blood back in, and then it has to pump, it has to relax to get the blood back in. Now, if it's just quivering, then no blood ever gets in to be pumped. So effectively, the heart becomes useless when it's just shaking rather than pumping. So that's what you want to do. You want to reset the heart so that it pumps instead of shakes. One of the beauties of this machine is not only does it apply the shock, but it tells you, it's really idiot-proof. It tells you exactly what's going on with the heart. It detects whether a person has an abnormal rhythm. So if you're sitting there and I just put one on you, it's not going to tell you to shock the person. And in fact, if you press the button, it's not going to shock you because it knows that it's not supposed to shock you. That's how idiot-proof it is. But when the time comes, it does send an electric charge to the heart to try to restore a normal rhythm, and uses shocks to stop the hearts from fibrillating. So the question becomes, why should you guys get a machine? Well, as I said, sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death in the United States. And you have about 10,000 people dying on the job. And these are people, if they're on the job, then they're young enough, generally speaking, to have children or grandchildren, and or wives or husbands. So these aren't people who are day old, and these aren't people who are 105. These are people who are engaged in the economy, engaged in life, contributing to your business, contributing to the world in a very dynamic way, and they're out of here. My fraternity brother, who I said was found in the basement, he has 18-year-old son, 20-year-old daughter. I was 18 when my mother passed away. She didn't see me graduate from college. She didn't see me graduate from med school. She didn't see me graduate. She didn't see me get married. She never met any of her grandchildren. So that's a very real loss. And so we're talking about, you train somebody, they're experts in their field, and then one day they just can't come to work anymore because they're just not there anymore. Or even if they do survive, they may be permanently disabled. If you don't get to them in time, they may be, the brains may be injured to a state where they're in a chronic vegetative state, or their hearts may be damaged to the point where they can't work again, even if they're mentally capable of doing so. So this is, even if you don't care about people, which I know you guys do, there's still bottom line consequences to these early and untimely deaths. So placing an automated external defibrillator in the workplace, along with providing a proper management system and training for the employees on how to use it, can mean the difference between life and death. Of the sudden cardiac arrests that occur each year, about 250,000 to 400,000 deaths, more than 95% of these people die before they reach the hospital. When you have an AED, and you give care within 7 minutes, these people survive. As I said, you're talking about going from 5 to 7% survival to 60% chance of survival. Every minute that passes without CPR defibrillation, the chances of a cardiac arrest victim survival decrease by up to 10%. So you just can't call the, can't just always call the paramedics unless they're right around the corner, even at their fastest response rate. They're not going to necessarily get there in time. Usually they won't get there. I was kind of amazed. I looked up and the paramedics were there at my house. I lived 2.5 blocks from the fire station. So they got there promptly, but it was too late. They revived her enough to get her to the hospital, but she was brain dead. So she passed away. That was a Wednesday when she passed out. She passed away the following Monday. Sherman Society for Human Resource Management. On their website, they say the data shows that sudden cardiac arrest survival rates can be higher in a workplace. So you're better off being at work than in other locations, including medical institutions, when a workplace makes this topic part of their workplace and culture. So you say, well, why would people do better off at work than they do in the hospital? Well, the people who are being resuscitated in the hospital, they're already sick. Some of them were going to die no matter what you did. Some of them were 99 years old, whatever, but you're talking about people who are at least healthy enough to go to work at work. And so it really, really makes a difference to have this equipment at your facility. So let's talk about workplace law in the state of Nevada. So you have a Good Samaritan law, which means that as long as you're working gratuitously and in good faith, you render the emergency care, then you're not going to be held liable for the consequences if the person succumbs anyway. You, as a business, you're going to need to have complied with the federal and state regulations governing the AED, which means that somebody's going to have to, you're going to have a protocol to have it inspected to make sure the batteries are up to date, that the equipment isn't damaged. An employee of a school district, medical facility, or health club that provides an AED must be trained. So they have to be trained, and of course it just makes sense that your people at your job should be trained. And these aren't exorbitantly expensive trainings to hold. Junior high school and high school students must receive CPR training. I don't have any kids in the system. Do you know whether your kids have received training, or did you receive training when you went through school?
Yeah, they do. Usually in high school.
In high school. So, again, you have to make sure that the equipment is maintained and tested from time to time. But if you have a safety officer, that can be something, obviously, that can be part of their duties. You have to establish requirements for EMS notification. You have to have this equipment out at the airports, health clubs, school district, and legislative buildings. The law says that you shall ensure that these defibrillators are inspected and maintained on a regular basis, and you should encourage the entity where the automatic external defibrillator is placed to require any employee who use the AED to successfully complete the training in accordance with the American Heart Association, National Red Cross, and other similar programs.
Yeah, because the pads have an expiration date on them, so you gotta watch for that, and buy new pads, and then, like you say, the batteries, you gotta keep up on making sure the batteries are good.
So it's not something you can just put in and just totally forget, but when you're talking about saving lives, maybe your own, then it's worth the investment. Last thing I want to say is that a community saves its own lives. Then you talked to me about mentioning at the previous presentation about active shooter drill and the importance of being kind. You save lives. You give people hope. when you give a kind word. You just never know what's going on. So a community saves its own lives. Communities come together to put things in place, whether it's checking on your neighbor, whether it's getting a defibrillator, whether it's making sure that you shovel snow and put down salt so that nobody slips and falls as they're walking along the way. We save our own lives. We take care of each other. And so you want to take care of your employees, you want to take care of yourself. And this is a great way to do that and do something in an impactful way. And hopefully it's something that you'll never have to use, but if you have to use it and if you needed to use it and you don't have it, you will surely wish you had. And you can make the profound difference in the life not only of your company, not only in the life of their employees, but in the life of their family, their children, grandchildren, spouses, etc. So that's it. I want to thank you for taking time to come out. Do any of you have any questions? Oh yes, I do have one request of you guys. I put together a survey. I'm going to give you a sheet that I'd like for you to fill out to let me know what you thought about the presentation and to let me know the status of your company in terms of whether you have this equipment in place or not. So any questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't leave yet. Let me get you.
You still get it?